Hi guys, this is Doug Wagner. I'm the writer of Plastic and Vinyl, and you're listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
What is that? From out of the blue? On a Monday night?
On a holiday Monday night.
It's crazy. What's happening? I need it to be...
Because I miss you guys.
I need it
It's
to be...
Memorial Day. That's why.
explained.
It's Memorial Day.
Well, it's fun. Hopefully,
bonus.
it is bonus, and hopefully it'll be fun.
Oh my God.
No, not for us. It's going to be fun for us. I meant for the listener.
God.
Nobody
Jesus.
wants an hour and a half of pain in their ears.
That's true.
Yeah. Hey everybody, this is not painful because it is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 855. We're past the tipping point. And I am Vince B.
You are Vince B. I am David A. Price.
Indeed you are. And I need a new place to live because my parents were killed. I'm Jason Todd.
Wow. League of Jasons. But,
Yeah,
no,
Jason's, baby.
Oy,
you are not
your best members.
Kid Maudlin. You're Jason Wood, everybody. Here today on this special episode brought to you, as usual, by cheapgraphicnovels.com. Proof is in the name, cheapgraphicnovels.com. Go there and you will save on your collected editions, your omnibuses, or omniboo, however you want to say it, your manga, all that stuff, because it is far less than retail. Take a look around, place an order. Guess what? You know the drill by now, but I'm going to go through it one more time. Place an order, and you will be greeted with an email confirmation saying, thank you for your order, wonderful person. Here's what you want to do. You want to reply to that email saying, I was referred by 11 O'Clock Comics. And guess what? You will get free shipping credit on your next order.
Hell yeah.
It's insane. It's very generous. And it's just par for the course for cheapgraphicnovels.com because you're going to save. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. Maximum savings, maximum truth. Just going to keep plugging. They are the truth.
Wow.
Keep plugging that Max connection. I'm trying. Air Max.
Love it.
Yeah, all that stuff. Well, as I am not consuming the alcohol, I'm drinking the world's second best coffee. It's not McDonald's. It's an extra large. Stop. Extra. That was the best. You know what?
No,
No, that is the same tone my wife takes with me whenever she can tell I'm going down that slippery slope. I am drinking an extra large Skeates coffee.
Okay. All right. No,
It's really good.
Fine. No, that's
Yeah.
fine. I'll allow it.
Thank you.
I don't mind that.
It's very good. Very
I thought
good.
you were going to say something else, and
No,
I just wasn't ready
no.
to hear it. And
What would I possibly say?
Oh.
we're good. What you drinking, Jason? From the airport.
The airport.
Something's loud.
Yeah, there's a sound in the background. I don't know where it's coming from, but
My windows are closed. I got nothing going on here.
I mean, my windows are closed. I don't.
it's so weird. It isn't. It's actually insane.
Wait, hold on. Let me mute. Let me mute real quick and tell me if the sound goes away. One
All
second.
right.
Hold on.
And it's
Yep.
gone. Yeah, it's gone away.
What away?
Survey says Jason Wood.
Well, that's really weird. Like literally, I mean, it's the same setup as always. That's so strange.
Unless you're sitting under an air conditioner vent.
I don't. No, I mean, again, I'm in the exact same spot I am every time ever.
Well, then it's a mystery, and it's Skype, par for the course. It's not. It's not. I mean, it's annoying, but you can still hear your dulcet tones.
All right.
You're fine
well-
now. You're fine now.
Okay, weird. Yeah. All right, right on. I am drinking. Well, I have two things. I have coffee, which is halfway done, and a G0 lemon lime. Yes, right here. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yes.
Excellent. I am enjoying The rest of this, it sounds funny. Hibiscus Cosmopolitan.
Ooh, fancy.
It is. It's a premix from Spirits Labs. They're a distillery in New York. This is Spirits Labs vodka, orange liqueur, cranberry, fresh lime, and of course hibiscus. And it is fucking dangerous. They also make a rosé lemonade, which I had to buy a case of for Renee because it's wonderful. But it's the summer. It's nice over some nice ice. It's freaking delicious. So once this is done, I have my fake ass wannabe Yeti filled with water.
Nice.
Must fake ass wannabe, he says.
It's something, I don't know who made it. It's a Perka. It's a Dell Technologies branded water cooler.
Huh.
Whatever.
Nice.
It keeps it cold.
We have something new for you this week, people listening. You will or you may be familiar with our single shuffle. Remember single shuffle? That is where each of us selects a single issue and we all read them and talk about them. Well, this little game we have tonight is a variation on the single shuffle, with the exception that the issues selected are not just a random ass issue that you wanted to read or you wanted one of the other guys to read. No, this is what we're calling the EOC All-Stars. These issues about which we will speak tonight are some of our favorite issues of all time. Hence the title, EOC All-Stars. There are 3, just like Single Shuffle, but these are the ones that really, really matter. The ones that we've read, love, but for whatever reason, we really haven't spoke on at great length on the show. So I thought this would be a nice way, a little bit of a clearinghouse in order to talk about our all-time favorite single issues. And going in, I was amazed at just how many single issues I love that I have not spoken on.
Interesting. I told Beth, the wifey, for those that are listening don't know that, what we were doing tonight. And she, as usual, she was not in any way riveted. But she did say, well, wait a minute. You guys have been doing the show forever. How do you know what you've talked about, what you haven't talked about?
We just do.
Well, I'm like, we just do. I'm like, I'm sure there's things occasionally that we forget we've talked about. But I'm like, but generally speaking, I mean, we know the journey.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just to be precise, these are single or special issues. Like when I was initially coming up with this thing, I thought, magazines, no, disqualified. Right? We all agree on that?
I'd co-sign that, yeah.
Which eliminates a whole mess of great single issues for me, what with the Marvel Monster magazines, a bunch of creepy, eerie, vampire, like stuff like that. So Comics Book is a magazine, and I've spoken on that enough. But so we eliminating magazines, and we also eliminated trade paperback. Like it can't be a single issue that is the equivalent of a trade paperback. Like if we brought Blab, the new Blab #1, to the table, like that's a single issue, but it's the equivalent of a trade paperback. It's big and it's thick. These are just random ass regular series single issues, and we love them. But for whatever reason, we haven't really expounded at length on these issues on the show. So now we're here to correct that. EOC All-Stars. We have 3.
Love it.
We're going to talk about them.
That's absolutely right.
Yes.
Okay, so, well, this isn't like a book of the month, but I should ask. So, I was going to ask a question, but maybe should we say what the issues are first before I ask the question? Do you think?
Yeah.
Because I was going to ask, like, the normal thing I would ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the normal thing is wonderful. And so here are the 3 issues. I think we should each say what we picked.
Okay.
I don't think it's any surprise that I went with PLOP. because I absolutely adore that entire run. But I went specifically with plop number 4 for reasons I will elucidate as I talk about it.
Nice.
Ooh, fancy words and shit.
Yes. So plop number 4.
I went and well, no, because that'll spoil Jason's thing. I went. No, it'll spoil your question. I went with a book that I've. Well, it's a title we've all discussed over the years, but this particular issue holds a special place in my heart, and that is Detective Comics number 526.
See? 526. Like, this is not, first issue, last issue. This is
milestone issue,
right? It is. It is.
I know,
it's
yeah, sort of, kind of, but at least, but it's not like it's not some milestone event that's like 700th issue. But yeah,
right,
yep.
yeah.
And I went with Thor number 337.
Wow, it's really crazy to think. Like, I can see not talking about plop number 4 or Detective Comics 520. What is it? 526. Even though it is a milestone issue, but Thor 337, like, we should have spoken on that.
Well, I think we've talked about the and we'll get into it. Like, I think we've talked about the run, and again, we'll be vague for now because we're going to get into it. But like, we've just certainly talked about the run quite lovingly and probably in some measure of detail over the years. But we've never done any kind of issue by issue sort of discussion of it. We've certainly touched on the plot points, I think, of some of the like key things that happened during the run. I'm sure, in passing, but
yes. Didn't we do? Did we talk about a Walt Visionaries? And did we like dance around his store run? I know what. Yeah, obviously we talked about
think
Walt.
so.
I don't think we've ever examined the.
Oh no! I think maybe Walt's Visionaries may have been a Book of the Month candidate at one point. But it's not like. But yes. I mean, obviously who wouldn't discuss Walt's take on Thor at some point? But and that's actually the youngest book in the
Yes.
In this little
most recent meaning. You mean most recent?
Yeah. Nothing beyond 1983.
Well, we're old.
Yeah, right. Mine is cover date November 83.
Yep.
And mine's February.
Yep.
mine's March, April 1974.
Yeah,
the year of my birth.
I was barely 2. Yeah.
I wasn't born when that issue came out.
Well, we're all better now that you are.
Yeah,
Facts.
Yeah. So ask your question.
Planet Rebirth. Well, let's start with you, Vince. Of the 3 issues, because normally we ask this of one thing when it's the book of the month, but of the 3 issues, when did you first if you recall, when did you first read them?
Well, I bought 2 of them off the rack.
The
one I didn't read ever is David's.
No shit.
Stuns me.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you.
You had such a huge Batman collection.
Yeah. Well, I had that issue and I sold it to Campbell, but I never read it. No.
Wow.
I never read it. Yep.
I would have assumed you were 3 for 3 off the stands. But
No. The Batman is the outlier. Yeah.
That's
okay.
amazing.
All right, Dap. How about you?
I read Plot for the first time yesterday. The other 2 were bought off the rack.
You are welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then and then probably not surprising to anyone, I bought. I didn't buy 337 off the rack because I was 9 years old when it came out, but I did buy it probably 2 or 3 years later when I started collecting in earnest. I went back and bought all the Simonson stuff because he was still doing the book when I started reading comics and he was the first art. Well, we'll get into that, but so I did buy it I bought it in the back issue bins and read it probably in 1986, roughly 86, 87. But the other 2 I read for the first time this week.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So who wants to be the first to launch into our EOC All-Stars?
Well, why don't I go first? Because all of us had read this before this week. Cool. This is the one that's most familiar.
Now, we should specify the original colorist
Yes.
on this issue was George Roussos.
Yes.
But the one we read is the recoloring for the Simonson. I think it's Simonson Visionary book.
Thor by Walt Simonson, Volume 1.
Yeah. So this one was colored by Steve Oliff.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So no, I read the original because I read it on Marvel Unlimited.
Okay.
Oh, we don't have that. So
Yeah.
we didn't
So
read that.
so that'll be interesting how that compares. I guess, well, we won't really be able to say how it compares because we didn't each read both. But
Well, the Oliff
yes.
is much slicker. And,
Right.
And there's
Yeah,
a
it's-
lot more gradations in the Oliff.
Right. Well, so my, as I said, my issue is Thor number 337, cover date November 1983, on shelves August 1983. For those listening at home, I'm sure many of you know why I picked this, but for those of you who are noobs to it, I chose this issue because it is the first issue of the heralded Walt Simonson era. He took over this book as the writer and artist on this issue and would go on to write and draw the book through issue number 367, so 31 issues. And then he maintained as the writer until issue 382 with who was on Art Boys? Do you remember? Primarily? Do you remember who took over for him?
Was it Sal or Ron Friend?
Yes, it was Sal.
It was
Very
Sal,
good.
yeah.
Sal Buscema. Yep. Sal Buscema took over for him. One minor point I wanted to make before I get into the issue is, it's just funny how your mind plays tricks on you. I forgot how short Walt's run is on this book. Mm-hmm. Like, so much happens, and I remember so much of his run that I realized, like, I pretty much remember the entire run, because, like, I would have thought, like, there were, like, entire arcs that I just don't really quite remember. But no, I mean, he only did, like I said, he only wrote and drew the book for 31 issues, which is certainly not an insignificant chunk, but it's less than 3 years. And, I mean, if you think about, like, Jason Aaron wrote Thor for, what, 7 years? So, like, if you just think about it in that way, right, it's a much shorter run than I remember. Now, he wrote the book for nearly 5 years, to be fair, but yeah, I mean, like, I think when most of us talk about the Simonson run, like, we're pretty much talking about the period where he writes and draws it. I went back just for fun after we decided to do this and reread issue number 336, the preceding issue. Do you guys remember anything about that issue or who wrote it or drew it? Without looking it up.
Was it David Anthony Kraft?
No.
No, it wasn't. No, it was. Oh shit, no. I do know too. Damn it. Was the Crusader the bad guy in it?
No.
I don't remember, but it probably has the Wrecking Crew in it.
No, it was written by Alan Zelenitz.
Yes,
Ooh.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
With Trimpy on art, actually.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Then it's not. The issue I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and it was a totally forgettable issue, but I guess which is why it got relaunched. But yeah, so back to this issue. So 337 is the start of the infamous or the famous Walt Simonson run, and it is. We've talked a lot over the years about how covers back in the day felt like, at least to me, they meant more because they kind of told a story. Oftentimes they'd have word balloons. Now, this particular cover doesn't have word balloons, but it's one of the most memorable covers for me. There aren't many. I'm not a cover person, so there aren't many covers like when you bring up an issue like where I immediately can pull the cover into my mind's eye. Probably much less so than either of you guys, but this is definitely one where I do. It's one of the reasons I picked it. I can remember the cover vividly. It is basically the Thor logo getting smashed asunder by Beta Ray Bill in the form of Thor smashing the hammer. And so this was not only the start of Walt Simonson's epic run, but it also is the first appearance and introduction of Beta Ray Bill. So I have no doubt that our boy Cliff will listen to this episode gleefully. Yeah. So now, because this was Marvel in the 80s, even though issue number 336 was by a different creative team and was rather blasé, this does pick up right after it, which is to say that the status quo is the same. Donald Blake is Thor is Donald Blake. Again, for those of you that are new to the mythos, at this time in Thor's run, he was living a double life, quite literally. He was part-time a human named Donald Blake, who was a doctor, a surgeon, and he was a surgeon with I don't remember. Do you guys like he had to walk with a cane? He was not like all that strong.
He was lame. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember like if they even explained why, but yeah, he was pretty much like feeble, and but a great surgeon. And when he struck his wooden cane to the ground, it would transform him into Thor, kind of like Shazam style, and the cane would turn into Mjolnir. He is just basically living his life that way, leaving the hospital, walking through the streets, and an incredibly drawn Nick Fury rolls up and basically says, "Get in the car." And so Donald Blake gets in the car, and basically Fury says, "I need your help with something that's come up." And the car, of course, because it's Nick Fury in the 80s, the wheels turn in, it turns into a flying car, and they fly off to the helicarrier. And Donald Blake's playing dumb. He's like, "What do you mean you need my help? Like, what am I going to do? I'm just a doctor. I'm just a Joe." And Nick Fury's like, "Bruh, you're come on,
I
son."
want to hear Gerry say, "Bruh."
Yeah,
He's like, "Come on, son." He's like, He's like, "I know you're Thor." He's like, "Don't worry, no one else knows, but I know because I'm Nick Fury. Like, I know you're Thor. I need Thor."
Fury, bitch.
Yeah. So they go to the helicarrier.
Bitch.
They roll into a big briefing. There's like, for an espionage organization, there were like 1,000 people in this briefing. So
there's a lot.
Secretive. Yeah, it's a lot of freaking people in the briefing. But anyway, Jasper Sitwell of MCU Hydra fame is debriefing everybody on the fact that there is this alien spacecraft that they have. Shield has this deep space probe, this top secret probe, and it picks up this spacecraft, and the spacecraft appears on the video footage of consuming a star to fuel itself, and it looks like the trajectory of the ship is heading towards Earth. And they're freaked out about that because theoretically a ship is powerful enough to consume a star. Who knows what it could do and what it might do to the Earth. So they want Thor, because apparently in this comic, Thor is the only hero in the Marvel Universe capable of going into space, to go into space and try and figure out what's up.
That's probably the only one Fury can actually blackmail into going, since he knows his identity.
Maybe, but like I would think, he's got files on everybody. Like J.
He knows all the Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah. So that sets the tone for the meat of the issue. But then Simonson shifts to different pieces of the Marvel Universe throughout the book. We then shift to Asgard, and Lady Sif is trying to find Balder, aka Balder the Brave. And it is worth mentioning that in 336, Sif leaves Earth. She was living on Earth with Thor because they were together, a couple. And she goes back to Asgard because she misses it and basically gives Thor an ultimatum. She says, "Come back to Asgard with me." And Thor's like, "No, I can't. I got stuff to do here." So she low-key breaks up with him and goes back to Asgard, but she's still trying to find her way. She's back in Asgard. She tries to find Balder, and he's verklempt. He's like Ben Affleck on a bender. Like, he's in the bar at the tavern, drunk, kind of out of shape, overweight. Woe is me. He's like, "I'm not Balder the Brave anymore." He's in his feelings, basically, Drake style. And, Sif's not really having it. She's like, "Dude, like, get yourself together."
You are totally glossing over something.
What?
Sif is looking for Dick. She's looking. She is pining for it. She's like, "Balder, I know, we haven't exactly been blah blah blah, but I need your strength, your understanding, your tenderness." Like, she's looking for somebody to sleep with.
I'm trying to dance around that because I don't want Sif to be a hoe.
She is a hoe. She's totally a hoe in this.
Yeah.
She even goes up to poor Heimdall, and she's like, "Yeah, I need some stuff." He's like, "Well,
no, Heimdall's her brother, dude."
So.
Well, no, she's not trying to get dick from Heimdall. Like, she actually says, like, anyway.
Yeah, he does.
What I love about that, though, what I love about this page is here's Heimdall, and he's like, "Wow, who someone approaches." My man can see, like, different
you can see a freckle on an ass.
Goddamn bridge. Like, who's this coming out? Like, he's got a squint and shit. It's like
he can see a microbe on an ass in like a universe away. But like, he's like,
Did you just
Sif coming 20 yards?
Oh, what
out.
up, sis?
Did you just say Heimdall has to squint?
Yes,
He did. Doing Idris Elba rough like that.
Yeah, what is that?
So then we shift back to Thor, and he's out in space now trying to get to the ship, and he gets to the ship, and now of course we in modern parlance know this ship lovingly as Scuttlebutt,
Yes.
a sentient ship, which ends up playing a role throughout Marvel history in different ways. And we probably, I guess, most recently saw it in Daniel Warren Johnson's fantastic Beta Ray Bill miniseries. But at this point, it's just a ship. We have no reason to think anything of it other than it's just this giant alien ship. And Thor's rolling up to it, and it, as you would expect, it has defenses, cannons and the like, and it's attacking Thor. But I will say Thor makes quick work of it. I mean, for this ship that can theoretically eat suns, like it doesn't put up much of a fight against Thor. And he breaches the hull, I think, relatively easily. And as he's walking through the hull of the ship, he comes across this large crystalline structure in the middle. And he assumes that's the power supply. Now, I guess Thor must be nearsighted because we all can see that there's a figure in shadow inside of the crystal. But I guess my man Thor can't quite see that.
Asgardians do not have good eyesight.
Yeah, right? Asgardians need a god of optometry. Shit. I'm saying.
That ain't right.
But so Thor goes near to the crystalline structure to investigate, and an arm breaks through the crystal and grabs him. And then we shift scenes again to Loki. And Loki is sitting on a throne looking bored AF. And in fact, he says he is bored AF because he is in exile, as he is often. And he doesn't know what to do. But somehow, despite being in exile, there's lots of activity around him. And he is made aware of the fact that there's some Asgardians hunting a troll. And because he's bored, he's like, well, I'm going to go see what this is about. And he comes across the situation and intervenes. Again, I'm still not quite sure why he would care one way or the other, but I'm guessing it's just because he's bored, figures like I got nothing better to do. And during the intervention of the hunt, there is this beautifully drawn, buxom young Asgardian woman in classic Simonson form, and her name is Lorelei. And she intervenes in the whole situation as well. And she will play a role in the series from there. But then we shift back to the ship, to Scuttlebutt. And now we see who broke through the crystal to attack Thor, and it is a giant armor-clad alien in very much like Kirby-esque kind of New Gods-looking gear, red, white, like metallic, but very, very Kirby-esque, I think, by design. And is pontificating to Thor because in his mind, like, this ne'er-do-well has broken into his sanctum and attacked him. And he says that his name is Beta Ray Bill. And again, like, people now are like, oh yeah, Beta Ray Bill, that this is the first we're ever seeing or hearing of that name. Then they do battle in some amazing scenes for a few pages, and it's pretty much back and forth. But as they're battling, because the ship is still flying through space, it nears Earth's orbit, or gets close enough to Earth's orbit that as Thor loses his hammer in the battle, he turns back into Donald Blake, because the way it's set up now, again, when he's on Earth, he can transform into Donald Blake. So he transforms in it when he lets go of Mjolnir, he transforms back into Donald Blake. So that's what happens here. So as he's fighting Beta Ray Bill, he becomes Donald Blake. And Beta Ray Bill's like, this is a strange transformation, because he goes from, god of his equal to this frail dude who's like clearly not his equal, but he's like, whatever. And as this is all happening, the ship enters Earth's orbit, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is attacking the ship, understandably, to try and defend the Earth, because it doesn't know what it's getting into. And Beta Ray Bill conveniently grabs the stick, Donald Blake's walking cane, and magically turns into a Thor-like version of himself, Old Horseface, and then does battle with S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, of course, the aha, holy shit moment here is that this alien who we had never seen before is able to wield Mjolnir, which we know is pretty much impossible for anyone to wield but Thor, unless you're worthy. So we're to assume, oh my gosh, this alien isn't a bad person at all. He's worthy of wielding the hammer. And he's battling S.H.I.E.L.D. They don't quite understand what's going on. They kind of think it's Thor, but they're not really. They're confused why Thor would be attacking them. They're just but they're still fighting it. And then out of nowhere, in a greatly drawn scene, Odin appears in pretty much taking a celestial version. It's Odin talking, but Clash of the Titans kind of style, where he's taking up the whole sky basically, and looks 3 or 4 times larger than the helicarrier, and he says, my son, we need you back on Asgard immediately, and zaps Thor back to Asgard. But the conceit here is that Thor in this moment is not our Thor Odinson, it's Beta Ray Bill, and all of a sudden Beta Ray Bill's gone from the battle. And Donald Blake is hanging from the ship, like hanging off the side of the ship, and is, alone, and he realizes what's happening, and he thinks he's been, basically abandoned by his father. And he's standing on top of Scuttlebutt screaming, "Father!" And that's like a final page splash, and that's how the issue ends. Yeah, so I mean, now this is, of course, like, for those, I'm sure many people are very familiar with how it goes from here. Like, it's pretty cool in the sense that Beta Ray Bill goes to Asgard and helps them in battle, and eventually gets, because he's certainly not going to continue to wield Mjolnir, but because he proves himself to be so worthy of wielding Mjolnir and is a hero and a friend, he ends up getting his own hammer, which then, to this point, even in the current Marvel continuity, he is able to use that hammer in the same way that Thor uses Mjolnir, and he can transform into this version and the like. And there is the birth of Beta Ray Bill. So they both exist coincident now, but at this point they were obviously not coincident. Yeah, and I will tell you, man, like, looking at and we all love Herb Trimpe. I mean, we fortunate enough to meet the man before he passed away. Got him to draw something for me. Like, I'm a huge fan of Trimpe, but like seeing the art in 336 and then seeing this art, it reminded me of why. Well, let me say it another way. Rereading this reminded me of. I sometimes forget how important Walt Simonson is on a very short list of artists who I think made me a comics fanatic, because I remember vividly as a young kid going to the comic store and just picking up issues that look cool. And Simonson was absolutely unequivocally the first artist that I recognized as an individual drawing things. Meaning, like, I recognized his style and it was super cool. And I thought, oh, there's different people drawing these comics. Because again, I was like 11 or 12 years old. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. They're like different people draw comics and they look different and have different styles and have different abilities. And Simonson was the first one that I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. This guy's amazing. And I feel like sometimes I forget how important he was in the very earliest stages of my fandom. But looking at this issue, man, like, I think this issue and his run visually holds up to anything we've seen since, including stuff today. And I don't think a lot of comics that I go back and reread from the 70s and 80s visually are always, I can always say that. Like, there's nostalgia pull to a lot of them, but like visually I don't know that they're quite as amazing, depending. Sometimes they are, obviously, but in this case I was like, man, like, this is still vibrant and modern and exciting and different. And it was amazing. I loved it. I loved revisiting it. I thought having the guy write and draw it was awesome because, you saw this cohesiveness, including like the way that the word balloons and the sound effects were all integrated into the panels, which we just don't see very often. And man, oh man, I had a blast revisiting this stuff. And admittedly, this isn't the first time I've reread this. I mean, because I've certainly reread like the in the omnibus and the collection and stuff. So like I've definitely reread the quote unquote Simonson run before, but it's been a minute, and I've really had a blast with it. So
nice.
I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did.
Yeah, one of the things that it was a refresher for me in that just how tightly crafted the issue was on Simonson's part, because there's an emotional bookends to this issue. Like, Blake starts off kind of woe is me, the burden is horrible sometimes, and it's such a lot to take in, and I'm always on alert. But you know what? It's not bad being the god of thunder. Like, being Odin's son is pretty cool. And then at the end, he gets that taken away from him. And he's like, Father, so that was really neat that Walt conceptually went from light to dark so quickly within the scope of one issue. And then the opening scene with Surtur, like, no one knew what the hell was going on there. Like, that was cool, but it's like, what is this? Somebody's making something on a cosmic forge? I don't understand this. What is it? But it plays out later in the series, right? I thought this issue was it's one of those all-timers. It really is. It's kind of flawless, really.
Yeah, I had a little mini panic attack when you came up with this idea because I loved the idea, but I'm like, fuck, like what have we not talked about? Like we've done this show for 15 years, like we've covered the stuff we love the most, and then I just kind of cleared my mind and thought, well, there's got to be something. And this came to me, and then I'm like, I hope when I reread it's worthy of the choice. But I think it was. I mean, I definitely feel oh yeah, this is an all timer. Like this is, and again, like I think I could have picked many issues from this run, and it would have been awesome to talk about. But it just felt cool to talk about the first one because again, it's the thing that got it. Without this, obviously, there isn't anything that comes after it. So
yeah, Simonson's an anomaly, man. He has Jack's penchant for design and experimentation, but then he has of the period. I mean, look at the guys that he came up with: Wrightson, Starlin, Kaluta. All that. Like he can really draw. So he's very illustrative on the one hand, but then he has this visual shorthand that in expressing cosmic Kirby-esque themes, that he's very designy at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's...
we've maybe talked about this, again, this could be something we have talked about over the years, but I just don't remember. But reading this, it made me like make that mental connection between... I view him as like the conduit between Kirby and like Larson. Like obviously Larson is... he worships at the altar of Kirby.
Sure.
But like, I guess rereading this, I'm like, oh man, like this looks more Larson to me than Kirby. But like, obviously, Simonson himself is an unapologetic Kirby acolyte. So it's like, oh, this is the lineage. Like this is the family tree. Like this is like it's. I mean, yes, Kirby is to Larson, but it's like Kirby to Simonson to Larson. Like seems more like that seems like the more like if it's a cleaner visual pathway to me. And I'm like, oh, this is neat. Like I never really. Because I own Larson art, I don't own any Simonson art, but like I'm like, oh, this is like, oh, I guess I never really connected that Larson is like so much like Kirby. I mean, so much like Simonson before. Larson's a little more free, I think, a little more.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, like he's a little more daring, or
not initially, but now, yeah.
Right, like he's more of a he's a right. But even like Walt's an older gentleman now, but you read that probably the last thing Walt drew that I've read is that Ragnarok thing.
Yeah.
And that's much looser, but I assume I attribute part of that just because he's an older gentleman now, so he's probably like, listen, right. I don't need to go crazy.
It's also crazy that we only see Beta Ray's armament, his armor, in one panel, like the whole full thing in one panel. Yet,
I mean, if you think about the cover,
he styled the boots.
The cover and then that one page,
the boots are exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, albeit a little less stylized, but the template is there, but it's only in one. I mean, you could see him from a distance in some, but it's really not as apparent as that one panel. It's like, holy crap, Walt! Like the planning. He must have planned this issue for a long time.
Well, I did a little reading, and I guess there were kernels of his run of his 31 issues that were from him that he came up with back when he was in college in the early 1960s.
Jeez, yeah, it is a long time.
Yeah, and he finally got his chance. Now, again, I'm not clear whether like it was like, I don't know if it was necessarily like a Thor story, but he had these like ideas, these like hero epic ideas that he wanted to work in, and was able to finally do them on Thor. So, yeah.
FYI, while I did have a good stack of Journey into Mystery, right, and I had scattered issues of Thor here and there, 337 is the first time I bought Thor on a regular basis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, now, okay. So that's, I mean, maybe you don't remember this because it was early 80s, but why was it the strength of the cover? Because Simonson wasn't much of a commodity before this. It wasn't like he was like a draw, like you were like, oh, I got to get this Walt Simonson book.
I don't know the chronology. Did the Heavy Metal Aliens issue come out before his Thor run? If it did, it was...
would assume, right?
Yeah, if it did, it was probably... Well, yeah, because that was 76.
What about Star Slammers?
Yeah. I was aware of Simonson, but
79 was Alien.
right.
Simonson
So
Alien,
so on
yeah.
the strength of that, I was like, God
Okay.
damn, got to have this. But yeah, I've always I've liked Simonson's work a lot, but like I said, I had scattered issues of Thor, but you're gonna get mad because he was an Avenger. I didn't buy the book on a regular basis. Same thing with Captain America. Same thing with Iron Man. I never bought those series every month. Like I would pick and choose. Like this looks cool. Nothing else on the stands. Maybe I'll buy this. But yeah, that all changed around this time.
Which is, I mean, that's the thing. Like to your point about, so much of our loves come down to timing. My first exposure to Thor in any form was Simonson Thor.
Wow.
So like,
see, that's good.
Wow.
right, but like so, and that I think played a huge part in being a fan of the Avengers, because like I saw the Simonson Thor. There was the Grunwald Cap going on, like all that was like the characters were all happened to be at pretty cool points in their arcs, right? Like of varying degrees. Obviously, I love the Grunwald Cap. I'm not saying the Grunwald Cap like test of time stands up to like Simonson Thor.
It's a lot of fun.
But it was a lot of fun. Yeah, I loved it. So
my corner of the Marvel Universe amounted to the magazines, the black and white magazines, the monster heroes.
And Simonson drew what was it? Was it Rampaging Hulk? Was that which Hulk?
Yeah, that's the magazine. The magazine.
But I'm saying Simonson did that, right?
Yeah, Starlin, Simonson, a bunch of them.
Okay, yeah.
But Hulk, Defenders, Silver's Fantastic Four, obviously Amazing Spider-Man. Like if it was Avengers related, unless it crossed over with Fantastic Four, whatever and then who they didn't cross over then, I didn't read the Avengers books. I just whatever. It wasn't my jam.
Mm-hmm.
But when this came out, that cover, I remember, I don't know where I saw it. Maybe it said one of the trade magazines. I was like, holy shit, I'm on this. Because look at that. That cover's amazing.
It is. It really is.
It tells you everything you need to know.
What's your story here, Dad?
The cover's absolutely striking. The cover drags you because he's destroying the logo. I know what was great is that 338. You have the new stylized logo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was obviously something new and exciting for this character that was pretty stale and stagnant. And of course you've got the John Workman lettering, which is just flawless. But I'll always giggle now. Ever since the Bullpen Bolton days with Doom, actually from the CGS days with CGS 4 with Doom, but I did not remember. I don't know when it happened that basically it's almost like Thor was walking around in Donald Blake's body because the thought balloons it reads very much like it's Thor thinking these things and not Donald Blake, and when the early stories when it was Donald Blake, he was kind of very much his own man. So I'm not really sure when this kind of personality change happened, but it works. And it's quick because we know that once Donald Blake gets to become Thor again, and Odin does his thing, and Bill gets to be his own version of the Thor, that there is pretty much no more Donald Blake, and we get Jarlson, and it's basically just Thor from that point on in as a civilian. But there were just I enjoyed going down memory lane with this issue because you had little things like Lorelei, who of course plays a role as Walt's run continues, because that's going to introduce us to Roger and bring back Malekith, and it's just there's so many visual memories I have of Walt's run on the book. It's amazing. It is one of it's absolutely it's up there with Miller's Daredevil. You could say Claremont's X-Men with there aren't a lot. Burns' Fantastic Four is another one. The 80s was a really great time to be a comic book fan with writer artists taking on their properties, and that Thor's no exception. It was just such a visual treat. month in, month out. I couldn't. He just packs so much on a page in every panel. It's just it's wonderful. This issue, it almost, rereading it almost feels like a prologue or a prelude to what's actually to come, because it's 338 is kind of when things really start to get kicked in the high gear. Obviously, we need this to get to that, but it's one of the more there's action between Thor and Bill, but there isn't. It's just mostly kind of setting the stage with Loki, what he's going to have planned, and just how Walt's going to like set up Asgard. It's a really, really a great pick. And I absolutely, it would rank up with anybody who's read it, and especially if they read it around when it came out. It would be a favorite of any comic book fan, no doubt.
Well, aside from Jack, there's really only one name you need to know when talking Thor, and that's Simonson. I know Jason Aaron's run is beloved, I guess, but whatever. It's not the Simonson run.
No, it is not. It is not.
And to be fair, it's very different. Like I mean, Aaron's run deserves credit in part because of the longevity. Like again, like, you know, Simonson was 31 issues and he got in and he got, but he left such an indelible mark. I mean, Aaron really does take the Asgardian mythos through a lot of journeys. And I mean, he starts off obviously with Odinson, but then a big part of his legacy is Jane Foster, sure. Which, you know, the anti-wokes all hate, but I thought was a wonderful augmentation of the mythos. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Aaron deserves credit. Not that, you know, they don't have to be ranked against each other. They can just both be great. But I mean, for me, Simonson's run sits atop the heap, certainly. But sure. Aaron is far and away, to me, the best non-Simonson Thor run. And you know, that's still saying something, because, like you said, between Journey to Mystery and his own title, I mean, he's had, 500 to 600 issues of his own comics. So
there's,
you know,
we're Aaron. Jason has the advantage of writing a character in an era where Jason Aaron's run, his Thor run, has a beginning, middle, and end. And Walt was just telling stories within continuity, within just there was no oh, this is a reboot, or I'm going to like write the definitive Thor that, you know, nobody's going to be able to top, like Born Again, where that kind of had an ending. There was no, Walt was just, you know, writing a monthly Thor book, and, you know, part of the Marvel universe, and that's just what it is. And when his time was done, you know, he could move on to something else. Someone else can come in, whether it's, you know, DeFalco and Friends, bringing in Thunderstrike. But there's that was back then. That was the 80s. There was no thinking about, oh, this will make a great trade, or we're going to just write this character's arc within these 5 trade paperbacks, and that'll be a complete. It's just, it's not apples and oranges, but it's kind of sort of apples and oranges.
Sure, that's fair.
You got to look at it with a little bit of honesty. Thor was middling for decades.
Oh, hell yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
I mean, the book may have looked good. I mean, you know, John Buscema and Joe Sinnott. Come on. I mean, that's really attractive art. But for the most part, it was like, okay. The stories, there was no. It definitely didn't have the sledgehammer of say Fantastic Four or an Amazing Spider-Man. Thor was like the book. You bought it when there were no other alternatives, right? And I'm just speaking for myself. Yeah. But when Simonson came on, you bought it because it was awesome. Sure. It was electric and new, and it's never lost any of its potency, I don't think.
I mean, one of the things I'm glad I'm not, I don't make a living predicting how popular certain pop culture things are going to be, because when the MCU was getting going, I thought, wait a minute, they're going to make movies about Iron Man and Thor, like they're barely their own comics barely sell. Like the average like person's not going to care about these characters, obviously. And
you should.
In retrospect, it couldn't have been more wrong. But my point is like, I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you. Like as comic fans, we knew more than the average fandom, like the average moviegoer knew back then. Was like, these guys were never like, they were always like more popular from a comics world perspective as part of the team. Like they were their individual books were never as popular sales wise as they were when they were in the Avengers.
Well, as far as the MCU, somebody, I hope, cut Robert Downey Jr. a massive check, because all the billions of dollars that the movies generated, it's almost entirely because of Robert Downey Jr.
Not to go off on a tangent.
Every single movie since Iron Man, he's just made more money with each flick.
Yeah,
Good.
and not to go off on a tangent, but I listened to a podcast very recently with the Russo brothers, and they were talking about that very thing. Like, just because like they were talking. So the scene in Endgame where all the heroes are together, like the big. It took an actual year to set that up, because like they had to get all of these mega stars to be available to do a scene together, and that literally took a year of scheduling.
Right.
Like they couldn't get them all into place. And but anyway, but he was saying, like, they were making the point that they would agree with you. They said, if like when you look back on it, if Robert Downey Jr. if Feige doesn't pick Robert Downey Jr. and then he doesn't agree, like it's pretty fair to say that like the MCU isn't the MCU.
Right. Yep, totally agree. And I have no love for Iron Man, but Robert Downey Jr. was so compelling.
He was Iron Man.
He is Tony Stark. Like there's and what's his face that does Thor? Like he's Hemsworth's handsome, but I don't think anything that came after Iron Man 1 would have come. They just wouldn't be if that wasn't a hit. So
no, agreed. Yeah.
And how weird is it that I was just thinking about Donald Blake and his stick. How weird is it that the cinematic universe just dispensed with the whole alter ego? Hey, he's always Thor. He's always Thor.
What was neat was that in the first movie, when Thor does show up and Jane just needs to give him something, she gives him a pair of scrubs, and it still has the "Hello, my name is Donald Blake," and he's like, "Who is this?" And she just rips the tag off. She doesn't worry about her boyfriend.
Yeah. He doesn't need. I wonder what kind of plot, contrivances they would have come up with if they stuck with the whole. Like in Endgame, he could have been scrabbling for his stick, like just stupid stuff.
The thing is,
it's been a long time since he had an alter ego.
Oh, for real, yeah.
But the MCU is basically it's more Ultimates than it is 616.
Yeah,
and
it is more. Yeah, that's true.
Let's be honest.
Visually speaking, I think they tried to pay more homage to like classic Marvel visuals.
Yes.
But you're right in terms of like the plot,
because of the modern stories and whatnot. Yeah,
exactly. But it is more Ultimate. The hero alter ego formula was a staple at both Marvel and DC. To be totally honest, I don't think Thor needs it.
No.
It always seemed like a contrivance to me.
Right, and it was his Achilles heel, which made him
just to put him in those situations.
But he's
How's
a god.
Get out of it?
He's a god. He shouldn't have to have. Like let's just. It's the son of Odin. That's all you need to know. He's the thunder god. Boom.
Right.
All right.
All right. Well, I'm glad it was a positive experience for all of us.
100%.
Nice.
Not be.
Seriously, it's good stuff.
Nice.
I think of the three, this had the most solid chance of being a solid hit across the board.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, I haven't heard what you think of Plop or what Vince thinks of Detective, but
exactly.
Right.
Okay. Who's next?
Well, mine's a trifle compared to the Detective. So, you want me to go?
Oh, you mean in size? Like this. Yeah.
All right. I brought Plop number 4, April 1974 to the table. Why is this issue important to me? Well, I said it going in. I love the series Plop, but number 4 was my first issue.
It was your first. Nice. Okay. All right. Nice.
And I also think that it's the best issue in the run.
And there were 28 issues, right? 28.
It's up there. Yeah, it's.
I believe 28.
Do you have the run?
I do have the run, but there's a point where it's like you don't even bother buying them. because they weren't very good after a certain point. Let's see. How many issues? There was exactly 24 issues.
24, okay.
Yes. And when the covers went from the Creature of the Month to the segmented covers, like there's a issue 20 has 4 panels. Issues 21 to 24 has a triptych on the like 3 panels. Those issues are just horrendous. They're not very good. But it's the beginning of the end, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, number 4, I think, is the best issue, and I'm going to tell you why. I just want to talk about the cover for a spell. Not only do you get a Basil Wolverton creature, in this case, newly Nostradamus. I cannot tell you, because the number is too vast, how many hours I spent staring at Sergio's margin work on this cover. It's absolutely amazing. There's, you got a monster gleefully grinding meat. You got a prosthetic leg in a bear trap. There's this Kong-like beast clutching a helpless human. Witches at a cauldron. Like, this is all my stuff. Shrunken heads, bats. There's a hunchback that's hauling a sack of body parts. You got a giant rampaging mummy. Vampires, this poor slob with multiple injuries in a hospital bed. Like, it's just so silly. But it's all Sergio. And I was aware of Sergio from Mad. Like, I liked his stuff, but it was always in the margins, at the top of the page or the bottom of the page. But now Sergio was front and center in this issue. And in the margins and in the background, and he's everywhere in this thing. And his creatures are unbelievable. They're just wonderful, right? Another weird thing about the cover is the back cover is an enlargement of the front cover. Like, what? Wait a minute. There's no ads on the back cover? It's atypical. Not only that, but the inside front cover and the inside back cover, there's no ads there either. Inside front cover is a contents page. Inside back cover is comics, black and white. The story ran longer than the page count, so they printed it on the inside of the back cover. I had never seen that, right? And another thing, even on top of all this, the PLOP logo itself is just not a mainstream. There's no mainstream stamp of approval, Marvel or DC, on the PLOP logo. It's not slick in the slightest. It looks hand-drawn and rough-hewn. It's more appropriate for an underground comic than it is for a mainstream book. Like this, the whole thing is subversive to me.
Yeah.
I didn't put those words to it back then, but it's very anti-establishment, and it's very weird. It's just not cut from the same cloth as Marvel and DC books of the time. It's not. I have to give DC huge props for publishing this, because it's just plain damn strange, right? And look at Sergio's work on the contents page. Those creatures are amazing. It's just crazy. There's 2 football players, and the guy's going to kick a football, and he ends up kicking the person who's holding the football, and his head is toying. It's like stretched. Vampires, and there's a guy that hung himself, committed suicide. It's nuts. It's so strange. But you could see why I love this magazine, right? It's totally me.
It is.
The horror. I've been a horror fan before I've been a superhero fan. It's in my DNA.
Yep.
So PLOP, if you haven't read it, is an anthology. It's a glorious, wonderful, beautiful, disturbingly dark. I think everyone forgets just how dark PLOP got. It's an anthology. In this issue, Cain and Abel and Eve, you know who they are, right? House of Mystery, House of Secrets, Witching Hour.
I was going to ask you. Okay, so are you? I was going to say. Obviously, I was familiar with Cain and Abel from House of Mystery and House of Secrets, but I was like, oh, did they add Eve to this for that reason? Is she the new? But she was in her own as well.
Yeah, well, she's one of the fates.
Oh,
I always took her as one of the fates.
Oh, I thought like Eve is in like Adam and Eve.
Oh yeah, biblical.
Oh,
yeah, that's.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty.
One and the same. You're saying.
I'm thinking yes. I'm probably wrong, but I mean, just in biblical terms.
But you're saying she was the host of the Witching Hour?
She was one of the three witches. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, it was the Fates that were the hosts of that.
Yeah.
I never read it. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Okay.
So, and we know the biblical story of all of these characters, right? Cain, the first murderer; Abel, the first victim; and his brother, and Eve is she bit that apple. So they're the guests of honor at a monster convention. Shut up. And the trio, they're a bit hesitant, especially Abel, after the Frankenstein monster pumps up the crowd. He's like, yo, well, this is Frankenstein monster. I don't think he said yo, but he's speaking to the assembled monster. He's like, these guys are the best storytellers in the business. They're going to make everybody laugh. They're just wonderful. And if they don't, we're all going to rip their faces off. So it's either put up or shut up or get your face ripped off. And Abel is the first, reluctantly, and he gets up there and he tells a story called Now and Then, which was written by Steve Skeates. Most of the stuff, a good chunk of PLOP was written by Steve Skeates. And it's illustrated by the great Nick Cardy. All those 100-page giant issues of DC, Nick Cardy drew most of those covers.
Just fantastic art, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But this isn't even... I mean, I love Nick Cardy. This is not a testament to the man's strength. I mean, it's good, but it's not the best Nick Cardy art I've ever seen. But it's the story. You got to... Bad luck, Willie Cartburn. Willie feels like a man out of time. He's just feeling the 20th century is not for him. He was born too late. The Wild West, now there's where it's at. If he was alive back in the Wild West, he'd be something. Like he would amount to something. So he takes a job as an assistant to a mad scientist who just so happens to need an assistant. Right. And this mad scientist was working on a time machine. So Willie pays attention. Well, he's helping the mad scientist with the time machine, and he can operate the time machine just as well as the mad scientist. So what he does is he kills the scientist. Doesn't matter. I'm going into the past. I'm not going to, there's not going to be any repercussions for this murder. I'm just going to kill him. So he warps back to the days of the Wild, Wild West. This is where he wanted to be. Unfortunately, he materialized smack dab in the middle of a gunfight, and he's shot to death. He's killed.
He did.
It's the way PLOP works, right? Then you get prison plops, and these were they're page fillers.
But they're like little vignettes, like little like Sunday like Far Side type of things. Like,
yeah, cool. But I mean the real strength of these pages is again Sergio's background work.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, it's just impeccable drawing, outstanding. But Robert Johnson did the plops, prison plops, prescription plops, gourmet plops, on and on and on and on. They're fun, and they do. I mean, if you're a Far Side fan, maybe you'll connect with some of these, but they're just single panel comics, and they're very dark and a lot of them are very disturbing. But Abel does not catch on with the monsters. They're pissed and they just frickin' explode, throwing shit at the stage. And again, the title of the comic is PLOP, but it's also used in an onomatopoeic way. Pratfalls. Things that connect, they will frequently use plop as a sound effect, which it works, right? So Eve comes up and takes her turn, and hers is A Perfectly Crazy Crime, which was written by Skeates and Sergio and illustrated by Sergio. So it's it's got that old Henry type ending. A man planned and trained for years to pull off a jewel heist, unlike any other. These jewels were under such tight and advanced security that they were considered unstealable. Nobody's going to take these jewels. We have the best security system on the planet. The jewelers even laughed when the man walked in waving a gun. He wants the jewels. They're like, all right, you take them. You're never going to get them. So during the chaos, here's what the man trained for. He folded his body and slid into an impossibly small garbage can. He compressed his body real small, slid into the garbage can, and it's summarily taken by a garbage worker and dumped into a truck. So he's got the jewels, he's in the garbage truck, and he doesn't even need a getaway car because the garbage truck is taking him away. So mission accomplished, right? Well, wrong. This is PLOP. The truck backs up to a cliff and dumps its load over, and the man falls hundreds of feet and is dashed on the rocks below. Plop, and he's killed. And it's so stupid.
Of course.
Yeah, but I mean, Sergio, the story's kind of silly, but Sergio can make anything look good, right? And one of the things that I remember vividly about this story from back in the day was the guys in the back of the garbage truck. He's got his jewels, and he's talking to the reader. A lot of fourth wall breaking in PLOP.
Yeah,
too.
for sure.
And he's got a banana peel on his head. And
you're right. I didn't notice that, but you're right.
And Sergio's garbage is so intensely detailed that there's a turntable with a vinyl record on it. There's a tire. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I think Sergio is, in many ways, whether the creator of Where's Waldo knows it or not, I think Sergio was one of the progenitors of the image finding things within the image trend that erupted. Like, right? Because his work is so freaking dense and it's so detailed. There's like stuff everywhere in Sergio's work. But Eve does not connect with the monsters as well, even after telling a tale illustrated by the great Basil Wolverton himself. I don't know how DC pulled it off, but they managed to get Basil Wolverton not only to do the cover, but he has a single-page strip in this issue. And
Rock.
And it was created for this issue because he pulls out a copy of PLOP out of this man's what he thinks is the man's innards. So Eve does not score with the monsters. They're not pleased at all. So it's up to Abel to try and turn the tide. And Abel appropriately comes to the podium with a tale called The Last Laugh. And this story, written by Skeates and impeccably drawn by the maestro, Frank Robbins, is probably one of my all-time favorite comic book stories. I see this story in my dreams, if I did dream.
Nice.
Yeah. And it doesn't overstay its welcome. It hits like a bazooka and then it's gone. You got a traveling salesman named Daryl, and his car breaks down just as he reaches.
It is a straight hoopty. It looks like a golf cart on its last legs.
The tires don't even look round.
No, it's nasty. It's nasty.
He's riding it like a horse. Like,
and he's got the old radiator with the cap in the top, and it's like you can actually hear it. It's like a percolator, and there's a fish in it. So the car breaks down on a farm, and he decides to have some fun with the local yokels. He looks over, and there's what he thinks is a farmer milking a cow. So which is very dangerous to do. He goes over and he smacks the ass of the cow being milked, and the cow kicks, and the farmer goes for a tumble, but it's not a farmer. Oh, it's definitely not. It is a young lady in bib, overall jeans with nothing on underneath it. Absolutely nothing. And her name...
Quite fetching.
Yes. She is a blonde built like a brick shithouse. And
Yep.
This is what we would call a PAWG.
Yes, that's right.
And her name is
Indeed.
Susie Bell.
Mia Malkova come to life.
Yes, her name's Susie Bell. And Susie Bell can do many things, one of which she can fix cars. And so she gets under the hood of Daryl's car, and Daryl has a penchant for smacking things on the ass. Because
Dude, when he says, "Who boy, that's some tomato."
that's my favorite panel right there.
Oh my god, dude!
He smacks a kick me sign on her ass. Remember Kick Me? Kick Me was big when I was when I was a kid. Yeah, he listened to you.
Well, so was so was a paddle.
What, you think Kick Me was only a byproduct of the 1940s when you were born?
Oh my
God! It's just in the 70s, dude.
So, but for a mainstream comic, I think Robbins got a little free with the.
I'll say big old rump shaker.
Yeah, and so she's looking at his car, and he gets her with the kick me sign, and Jason's right. Oh boy, that's some tomato. He's staring right at her ass, and we all are. God. He's just mirroring what the reader's thinking. He is. So Papa comes, and Daryl gets him with a joy buzzer. Bzzz, like that's supposedly funny. I never thought joy buzzers were funny. It's stupid. And Susie Bell's brother, Elmer, comes over and sees the sign on her, and he kicks the shit out of Susie Bell. Everybody's just laughing like this is not politically correct.
Big old buck tooth.
Yeah, he is.
I see this.
He's saying kick me, so I done did it. But anyway,
I seen it.
But everybody's having fun. They're all just busting a gut. And Pop says, Daryl, I think you better stay for the night. And Daryl's like, the gears are turning because what he sees as an easily manipulated local yokel family turns out to be anything but.
Facts.
Yeah, so
Susie just doesn't own a shirt, does she?
No
complaints. It's
no, she's yeah.
I mean, I don't know if any shirts have fit her.
Well, she's built like an hourglass. Yes. But she's the farmer's daughter. She's the classic depiction of a farmer's daughter. So what Daryl sold, if you couldn't tell by now, was gimmick gags like joy buzzers and black tooth gum and water squirting ties, and he uses them on the family. Like he shows Dad a tie, and it's another tomato, and it's this beautiful brunette, and he squeezes it in Dad's. While he's looking at the tie, he has a lapel flower, and he like the Joker, and he squirts Dad in the eye with water, and everybody's just having a great time. And Susie's playing footsie under the table.
Yeah, got real brazzers down here at the last panel
with Daryl brazzers, and so Daryl thinks, you know what, this is the girl for me. I'm just gonna marry her. Why?
Can you blame him?
Listen to this though. According to Abel, he thought about her unspoiled beauty and the hundreds of physical chores she would gladly perform. I think chores is not the right word for what Daryl was looking for, but whatever. So Daryl tells Dad, he goes, I'm taking Susie away from here. And Dad's like, trust me, boy, you don't want to do this. I'm not having it. And he pulls out a double barrel shotgun and fires. And Daryl just gets the hell out. He plugs him through his little pork pie. It doesn't have pork pie hat. What are those? Like those flat top hats called?
Yeah.
He plugs him through that.
Yeah.
So Daryl takes it upon himself. He gets a ladder and he's going to crawl up to Susie Bell's room. But Susie beats him to the punch and she comes down and she's got a nightie on.
A negligee, see-through.
See-through night. Now, there are no dirty bits shown, but There doesn't need to be, because Robbins milks the hell out of Susie's form, her silhouette, or her curves. And push comes to shove, the end of the story is, Susie Bell is a homicidal murderer who had spent time in the state home. And she separated Daryl's head from his neck. Killed him. And the sheriff comes and he goes, I guess she's just going to have to go back to the state home for a while. And like she has killed before and will probably kill again. Because Susie, according to the sheriff, has a deadly sense of humor. And we get to see her just laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh right at the viewer at the end. It is unbelievable.
The type of chapeau is a boater.
A boater.
I hardly knew her.
Motorboat her.
So the monsters don't like Abel's stories either. And they get to the
They're
point
picky goddamn crowd, aren't they?
Well, they are. They get to the point where they have the trio all tied up, and they got a noose around Abel's neck. And this is where, again, the magazine breaks the fourth wall, where Abel looks directly at the reader and says, so maybe the stories didn't turn you on, but what about the moron that spent 20 cents on this book? And the monsters are like, yeah, you know what? You're right. And it's just side-splitting to them that someone would plunk down 20 cents for this garbage. So yeah, this issue is pretty much inextricable with me. I love every bit of it. I always have. I always will. It's one of those things. It was a revelation at the time when I pulled it off the stand, and it's just one of those. It is, when I think of the medium we love so well, this issue is one of the things that comes to mind.
Love it.
How do you say you love something in many different ways? I literally, I don't know if you should, it's a Scotty word, I know. I love this issue. If my house was burning, I would try and find this issue and save it.
Yep. Nice.
That's heavy, yeah. That's exactly what we're talking about.
Yep. And it's no big shakes. I mean, some of it's not even good. I think the Robert Johnson stuff, the panels, they're funny, but I would love to, and we know why they're in there, because then they didn't have to produce sequential art, like pages and pages of sequential art. There's, what is there, maybe like 8-10 pages of those single panel strips. So I get while they're there and they're fun, but the real strength is the Sergio, the Nick Cardy, and the Frank Robbins. Like, that stuff is just absolute gold.
I think I like the plops more than you did, because like some of them I thought were really good, and I got to tell you, the Jonah and the Whale one, I was beside myself. Dude.
Well, that's exactly it.
For those who don't know, it's a panel. It's historical plops. So and then it's like a dude in like Arabian gear standing in like this giant, like there's this giant red thing which you then figure out is an intestine, but he's like standing, and it's like, and he's looking at a pinup on the wall and it says, "You are here," and it's pointing to the whale's stomach. That's hysterical. I think that's great.
You're so cute. Well, I mean, one of the reasons why the prison plops specifically, like Cracked had a whole bunch of prisoners hanging from the gallows, and it was much better than this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it was illustrated by John Severin.
Sure.
So, I don't think Severin could stand up to Johnson or whoever.
Vice versa. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, vice versa, yes. Because Severin is one of the greatest comic artists of all time. But, yes, Plop, number 4.
I mean, as I said, I had never read this before. I knew you were a huge fan of it. I adored it. I thought it was great. Like, I didn't really think there was a weak part, honestly. Like,
nice.
I mean, not surprisingly, this certainly is evocative of Mad Magazine. I mean,
sure.
pretty much everybody involved here was also involved with Mad, so that shouldn't be a surprise. But yeah, like you said, I was tickled by the subversiveness of it, by the especially the it was way naughtier and bawdier than I expected.
Yep.
Because it was a DC book. So I thought all the art was good to great, mostly great. But I mean, like, I didn't think any of the art was like, oh, because sometimes with anthologies it would be like, oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and to the point where and maybe the answer to this, there is no collection of this.
No, there's not.
Why?
I don't think there ever has been, or I would have
Right.
it.
No, I'm saying there is no collection of this.
I don't know. I don't know if DC just considers it a trifle and not worthy of collecting. I don't know, but it is worth noting that this was a commercially speaking was a total failure. It was more or less. Yeah.
I'm saying I was reading an interview, and they at least, again, according to Infantino, they in this interview I found, like, they lost money on every issue. So yeah, so I mean, if that may be some, but again, like, nostalgia wise, though, I think they could probably make back all those losses and then some. Like, if they put out one singular hardcover of this now with 24 issues, I think it would sell like hotcakes.
Wow, I think that's being optimistic, but I like optimistic.
I don't know, like, if Wits End sold, I'm really like Wits End sold out, and I mean,
well, I mean, come on, this is not Wits End.
No, I know, but also, you probably know this, but I was surprised to see that the Basil Wolverton covers were not created for PLOP. They were inventory covers that DC had in stock, which is shocking to me. Like, it makes me wonder, like, how did they just have random Wolverton monster covers? Like,
and there's also Wally Wood did some.
Yeah, he took over, right? Because Wolverton had a stroke, as I understand it, and then Wally Wood took over.
Yep. And then towards the end, Dave Manick comes on, and I'm not a fan of Dave's work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just whatever. I don't want to end on a downer, but yes.
Yeah.
But when you think of PLOP, like, what? Marvel had Spoof, and there was a couple of Marvel books that maybe not Brad Ech, but that was more grounded in the Marvel universe, like with the goofy Marie Severin versions of the heroes. There really has never ever been a book at the big two like PLOP.
Mm-hmm. I think maybe the closest might be Crazy, but that's more of a Mad ripoff than it is a competitor PLOP.
Right. Yeah, and Crazy was great for a good number of years before it started to suck.
Yeah.
So there you go. PLOP number 4.
We didn't hear what that thought.
Oh, we didn't.
No. I echo everything. No, I had a blast with it. It was funny. I laughed, and I seeing it's. We're used to Sergio either in Mad or, of course, with the Gru, and it's nice seeing him, for me anyway, in kind of a different setting, more of obviously a horror vein, and I was thinking you could even get the Sandman completist to
Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
A PLOP if it went to it. There's so many different areas that DC could try to promote so that they would get as many eyes on it if they were to ever try to collect it. But no, it was a blast. I dug the setup with we're trying to impress these monsters and stay alive, but not the stories weren't connected. They were just funny stories that the storytellers wanted to tell, and I love the whole fourth wall thing, because even Eve is like, listen, we'll get to the funny stuff. It wasn't the letters pages. Now here's the story, and it's just like little things like that. Like they knew exactly how the page, where every page was going to be, how the issue was going to be laid out, and it really worked. I had a blast with it. As far as like my first full issue of PLOP, that was a great introduction. So thank you.
Nice. And it just reminded me just how much I love Sergio's work. Because I think we forget, like, the guy's everywhere, has done everything.
Yep.
His monsters are just wonderful.
Yeah.
And he should draw more monsters. They should put him on a monster book. Big kaiju Sergio book. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on.
So, anniversary issue from DC Comics, Batman's 500th appearance in Detective Comics number 526, a whopping $1.50. It's an all-new issue. None of these reprints in this time. With a cover by Don Newton and Dick Giordano. With Batman, Robin, who was Dick Grayson at the time, and Batgirl kind of running towards the readers with a bunch of Batman's rogues. It's a red cover, and the rogues are all basically headshots drawn in white. And the reason why I picked this issue is this is Jason Todd's introduction to me, not the hubcap stealing little punk. This is it mirrored Dick Grayson's origin. Parents were in the circus. Parents were killed. It's like it's not. They weren't shot down and didn't miss the net, but it was a situation where here's an orphan now. Parents were with the circus, and this is what it is. But one of my all-time, and I don't talk about him enough. And I know we don't talk about the Phantom on the regular, but of course he drew that, and he drew the Captain Marvel, the Shazam serials in World's Finest, but Don Newton is one of my all-time favorite artists. And when I think of Batman, he is up there with Batman artists that I think about. And you've got your Breyfogels, you got your Wagners, you've got some really, really talented Batman artists. But for me, Don Newton is up there, high on the list. This issue is written by Gerry Conway, Don Newton, and Alfredo Alcala, and they were pretty much a team that worked well together and did a lot together. They're your artists, Ben Oda on letters, Adrienne Roy on colors. But this issue was kind of it says right on the double page splash, it's an ending and a beginning. And when you get to the last page, it kind of feels like it could almost be the final chapter in a Batman story. But we start off the issue with the Penguin showing up at a gathering with a whole bunch of villains, all standing on a stage. And at the time, I knew pretty much all of the characters on this stage. One or two not too familiar with, but they get announced as the issue continues. But it's Newton drawing them, and they all look amazing. But it's the Joker who brought everybody together, because the Joker is going to kill Batman. Unfortunately, there is someone else who is trying to steal their thunder and kill Batman before they get a chance to, and that's none other than Killer Croc. Killer Croc is kind of new to the scene, trying to get a foothold in the underworld, and kind of just take control of crime in Gotham. Now, while the Joker is announcing his plan, Catwoman is, of course, up on the catwalk. She hears this, that they're trying to kill Batman, and she's like, kill the Batman, kill the man I love, and she's not going to stand for that. So she beats feet out of the theater to make her way to warn the love of her life. But while she's dipping out, Talia is getting in Joker's face, saying that, this isn't fair, because it's all of you against one man. And Joker's like, we don't play fair. So she's like, well, then I'm out too. So Joker's like, all right, then we can't have you running out to tattle. So everybody's going to gang up and take Talia out of the picture. But unfortunately, she's too quick, and she gets away. But the reason she gets away is because she runs right by Two-Face, and unfortunately, he flipped the coin, and the good side came up. The unscarred, the non-scarred side came up, and he wasn't going to stop her. It's just the way it goes. So now he's got to. Joker kind of has to rejigger the plane a little bit. But while that's happening, we cut to Batman in the Batcave, doing a little bit of a workout in full outfit minus the cape and utility belt. But this was this was the 80s, and you wore your costume, and it didn't matter what you were doing, how silly or cheesy it may appear. It is what it is. So while he's working out basically to near exhaustion, Talia makes her way into the cave, and before she could say anything, Catwoman thinks that she's here to attack Batman. So now there's a cat fight, and Batman just gets between them, and he's like, "Listen, I don't know why either of you are here, but you better let me know what's going on." And they spill the guts. But we now cut to Dick Grayson flying on his bike like a bat out of hell, trying to get to Wayne Manor, but he's stopped by Waldo, who of course is one of the clowns at Sloan Circus, and riding shotgun with Waldo in the truck is Jason Todd. And we find out that Jason Todd's parents were kind of enlisted, for lack of a better term, by Dick Grayson to kind of get some skinny on Killer Croc. But we haven't heard from the Todds, so we're not quite sure what's going on with them. But we then cut to Barbara and Commissioner Gordon checking out the theater, and they find Captain Stingery, who was frozen during Tally's escape, and so Barbara's like, "Listen, I'm gonna go." She's of course going to investigate as Batgirl. Then we get a little bit of a subplot with Vicky Vale and some sexism. Vicky's not feeling the runaround from Bruce. She's tired of getting treated like a doormat. Alfred hangs up. That's when Dick and Waldo and Jason come in, and Batgirl shows up. Dick confronts her, and they decide now to head out. And we find out during their conversation that Barbara has deduced that Batman and Robin are actually Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson. There's a nice little exchange where I thought where Dick had said, "We thought, we disproved your theory and you dropped it." And she's like, "Well, it seemed really important for you guys that you really wanted me not to know. So I'll let you ride with it for a while, but we don't have time for this now." And while they're doing their thing, Batman, Catwoman, and Talia are trying to get to the bottom of Joker's plan. They infiltrate a hideout with Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, Riddler, Cavalier, and Riddler and a bunch of D-list villains. And they and during the fight, our heroes dismantle the villains. Mad Hatter tries to get away, and it appears as though he may get run over by a subway car, or he made it to the other side. All we have is his hat left in Batman's hand. That was the other thing about this issue. It felt so final for some of Batman's villains. Whether you've got Captain Stingery, it's just there's characters in this book where you just kind of figure they didn't make it out. So it was just weird the way this issue kind of just played out. But like you said at the beginning, it's an end and a beginning of sorts. So the villains are all trussied up and dropped off at in front of Gotham City, in front of City Hall. Cut back to Wayne Manor. Jason is awaking from a nap, and Waldo is still conked out. Jason starts to investigate. He starts roaming around Wayne Manor, and he notices the old grandfather clock, and it's not necessarily plush against the wall like you would expect it to be. There seems to be a little bit of an opening, kind of like making a doorway, and there's a passage heading down to the basement. So he's just strolling on down, sees the Batcave, sees a massive robot dinosaur, sees the Penguin, sees the big Joker card, and then he goes into the closet and he sees some of Batman's uniforms. While he's investigating, we cut back to Batman, Talia, and Catwoman. They show up at the they show up at this little makeshift bat signal where the signal man comes out. Signal man and Batman start to fight. The spook is about to is going to attack Talia, and Catwoman is about to get the drop on Mr. Freeze, but Black Spider gets the drop on her. Unfortunately, it doesn't go well for any of the villains. Heroes make kind of quick work with them, and with the clues, they get out of there. We cut back to Jason. We cut back to Robin and Batgirl. They catch up to Commissioner Gordon, and they are at the Gotham City Zoo, where Dick finds out that Joe and Trina Todd were murdered by Killer Croc and fed to the crocodiles. They're not completely eaten. Robin is able to fight the Crocs back and at least kind of recover the bodies. And he is not pleased. He's feeling guilty because he kind of enlisted him into this, and he's just it's eating him up. So Joker decides to pay a visit to Croc, and I really like the way Newton draws Croc's face. It's freaky as hell. Jason Todd continues to go through chests in the Batcave, finds an old circus outfit, puts that on, hides when he hears the Batmobile come into the cave, and then dips into the trunk before the trio of heroes can, or the hero and the anti-heroes can kind of ride off with him. Robin and Batgirl get a drop on some of the bigwigs of crime in Gotham, and while they get the information they need, they head to the gym, beat up some more guys there, find out that there's a bunch of other rogues like the Getaway Genius and Tweedledee and Tweedledum, Catman, beaten half to death, and unfortunately, it was a trap. They are now caught. Get a bunch of other bad guys showing up. The Two-Face flips his coin again. Clayface is impersonating a goon, another one of the mob bosses. Jason Todd knows that Batman's in danger. He's going to rescue him, and while this is all happening, I mean, Batman and Catwoman and Talia are all rigged up on a big vat that's just it's a brewery. Gotham apparently had 7 craft breweries back in the early 80s, but they're about to be burned alive, and kind of like that old makeshift Batman TV show kind of cliffhanger endings. But instead of that, Killer Croc is like, you know what? Let's get Batman down here. I'll fight him. I'll kill him. And Joker's like, no, we got this. And Croc's like, no, you're gonna do it my way. The no ifs, ands, or buts. So Batman and Croc are about to fight. And when we find out that Croc actually had the Todds killed, that's when Jason Todd springs into action by giving Batman the upper hand, and then he just starts beating on Croc as if like his punches have any effect on his hide. But the heroes subdue Jason, calm him down. The rest of the rogues are basically dismantled, and then we get a bit of an epilogue where Bruce says goodbye to Selina, goodbye to Talia, in his very smart looking deep V-neck purple sweater, and Jason's all sorts of distraught. Dick, feeling super guilty, knows what needs to be done and is willing to adopt Jason because he knows what he's going through. But Bruce reminds Dick that I know what he's going through as well, and if it's anyone's fault, it's mine. So they decide to go take a walk, and that's when Dick realizes that Jason's probably in good hands, and then they just start. Bruce and Jason are walking the grounds, and that's pretty much where that's where this particular story, that's where this issue ends. And yeah, it's a combination of the art of seeing so many of Batman's villains. This is just that version of Batman that just that speaks to me. I've enjoyed Batman's different iterations over the years, but this is kind of like my golden age of Batman. The early to mid '80s, pre-crisis stuff, shortly before Year One, and of course Year One. But yeah, I just and of course the Don Newton art. This is hands down one of my all-time favorite comics from all the years I've been reading. It's just it's not a very happy story, but it is one that just reminds me why I enjoy this hobby, this medium as much as I do.
Respect. When you gave us this issue, I'm like 526. Like, that's weird. And then I'm like, wait. I'm like Detective 27. Oh, how clever. I'm like, nice. Okay. I'm like, anniversary issue. Got it. My first observation about this is that, this is probably not unlike lots of comics back then, but this, oversized anniversary issue had as much happen in it as we would get a 12-issue maxi series these days.
Yeah, for real.
This would be a Tom King 12-issue maxi series now, right? That's what this would be, for all the stuff that happens, right? They would really stretch it out. So, a lot happens in this book, a lot, and that's pretty neat. You get a massive amount of story in it. I also will say that I don't understand why they need to clear out Dick's room for Jason, because it's a fucking stately mansion. I would imagine there's lots of empty rooms since it's just Bruce and Alfred that live there.
Yeah.
They can probably keep Dick's room just the way it is when he wants to hang out there for an evening and give Jason his own room. But it seems a little weird to me.
Very true.
I was having been nowhere near as steeped in the DC history at this era as Marvel. I realized that this particular issue is not the first appearance of Killer Croc, but this arc was Don Newton and these guys are the creators of Killer Croc a few issues back. And it's interesting, they call him King Croc in this at times, and then they also call him Killer Croc. Now, I think from henceforth he's Killer Croc, so I guess they were just playing with King Croc, and then we're like, oh, let's abandon that. But and then I came to realize that this version, which you noted is the way he draws him differently, I guess Croc is one of the many characters that were basically completely revamped after Crisis.
Yeah. So
after Crisis, he's much more like the one that I'm familiar with, which is much more reptilian and bestial, and even as much as in this book, obviously he is the murderer of Jason Todd's parents, but post Crisis he is not. Two-Face kills Jason Todd's parents in post Crisis, so it's interesting. The Croc we see here is not at all the Croc we've seen for most of his existence.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I thought it was great. I mean, I have not read a lot of classic Batman stuff, but I liked it. Like you said, I mean, I love. This wasn't getting the band back together per se, but I love issues that feature tons and tons of characters, and obviously this had a ton of Batman villains, including a few I was not familiar with.
Right.
So which was neat. And also similarly, I mean, I've certainly read some Don Newton comics over the years, but I haven't read a ton of Don Newton comics, and I think the art's tight and right, and I thought it was great. I appreciate you bringing it up, because this is certainly an issue I feel like I should have read to have street cred in the world of comic reviewdom. So I'm glad that I was able to check this one off.
Oh, I'm glad.
Neat. There you go.
And your turn.
It looks good. I thought it was good.
You can't recapture the you read hundreds of Batman comics. Like you can't go back to that place.
I don't think so.
Interesting. Is it Batman? Is it what?
No.
What is it?
I don't know. I just thought it was interminably long. I was like,
It was an anniversary issue. It was
it was too long. But see,
this is where the mindset is interesting because like if this was just a trade of like this arc, you'd read it and be like, okay, like it wouldn't feel.
I don't know. I don't know. I just thought it. Visually, when you're paired with Alfredo Alcala, he's gonna take over.
Right.
And it was hard for me to see where Newton ended and Alfredo began because it looked like Alfredo did it all. Right?
And there were some panels that looked a little Gene Colan-esque.
He's extremely heavy-handed. And I mean, he is. I think Alfredo is, aside from the only one that ever held his ground with Alfredo is Buscema. You could tell that it was Big John. Other than that, Alfredo just takes over, and he just commands the attention because he has a very identifiable style. Yeah, and I thought it looked really good. It's just it was just too much. It was too much of a. I have no connection to Jason Todd or this era of Batman. So I mean, I read it and it was fine. It was fine. It was fine.
Okay. Since this was so close to Crisis, like I guess it's interesting that like the Batman in here doesn't feel any different. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like the Batman that I'm reading here is any different than the post-Crisis Batman.
Yeah, all stern and okay.
Yeah, but like, and Dick Grayson feels like he's the same. I mean, right? Like so. It is kind of interesting. Like I guess again, like we take for granted now when they do like the reboots. It's like, oh, these things stay. Like I guess that was the same in Crisis as well. Like some things got shifted massively and some did not, probably based on who was the writer and who was the editor.
The what I beyond this before Crisis with Jason Todd when he becomes Robin, and you also we get year one, we get year two, and we get some Alan Davis drawn issues of Detective, and there's and like right before Crisis, there's one issue where Batman and Robin are about to leave Commissioner Gordon's office, and Jason whips out the holy gag that Robin used in the Batman show, and Batman turns to him, puts a finger in his face, says, "Never say that again." And that's just one random panel that just stuck with me for years. And then it was like, and that was like, and shortly after that, we get Crisis, and then we get Batman New Adventures, and we get the new Jason Todd, there was just so there's a handful of months where Jason Todd was not the worst thing that ever happened to Batman in my eyes. So it was at the beginning. I was also much younger, so I was able to. I didn't worry about it. I didn't have any baggage, but over time, they gave him a stupid new origin. But yeah, I'm still not the world's biggest Jason Todd fan, but at least knowing where he came from, I'm not. It's not. He's not Kyle Rayner. It's just one of those things where I don't. It was right place, right time for me. I guess when this issue hit, it was just one of those things, and New York played a big part in that.
And it's interesting that Jason Todd is a blonde in these stories.
Yeah.
Because like eventually all the Bruce proteges just look all the same. It's like
I think he ends up dyeing his hair because it is black in the later issues.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, there you go.
There you go.
Won't there.
It's a neat little experiment, and I hope we do it again because there are many, many, many issues that we can bring to the. Well, I mean, speaking just for me, I discovered
There
that
totally are. Yes,
there's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll find one that Vince will like.
It's not a thing.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, everybody.
Hey, who's gonna hate?
Hey.
Not taking a piss.
Well, I don't see. Did you write the issue?
I just said I didn't take it personally.
Right. So there you go.
Oh my God.
Hey,
We're fine.
Hey, everybody. Thanks
all good, dude.
for being here
Hey.
once again. Hope you come back next time. Remember, cheapgraphicnovels.com. What is it? cheapgraphicnovels.com. It's exactly what they claim to be. You are going to get graphic novels for cheap.com. Omniboo, manga, trade paperbacks, all that stuff. Place an order. Get that email confirmation. Reply to the email confirmation that you were sent there by us. And you will get free shipping on your second order. That's a massive discount. Everybody knows shipping these days is not cheap. I got to draw the line when the shipping costs as much or more than the actual thing I'm buying. In that case, I won't buy the thing. I just don't need it that bad. You know what I mean? So you're going to get free shipping. Oh my goodness, on your second order. cheapgraphicnovels.com. So there you go. EOC All-Stars, bitches.
Loved it. That was a fun idea.
It was, yeah.
It's coming back.
It was.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely a blast. I got to say, like, it is fun to think after all, I mean, nearly, fast approaching 900 episodes, that there's still so many things that we love that we haven't even discussed. It's crazy.
Yep. Truth.
And we'll be back later this week.
Yes, we're coming back in a couple days, my friends. So, go to the comic shop, read some comics, kiss your loved ones, eat good food, and say good night. I got to get a little piano where I can just blink, blink, blink. You got what I need. David.
Good night.
Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding. Ding.
My Lord.
Jesus Christ.
I know him.
David.
Ah, nice. Tell him you love them so much.
Love them so much.
Oh, so much. And we love them so much, we'll be back in 3 days to talk more comics.
Yep. That's a lot of love.
Maybe some even made in the 21st century.
Oh, definitely.
No promises.
Yeah, I got some 21st century ones.
Whatever.
Jason's like, I'm living in the 80s, bitches.
Seriously, if there's one among us that's always living in the past, it's me.
Your secret wars.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've had a lot more past to live.
It's not even true.
That's it for that one.